What's going on, guys, and welcome to Who to Sign For. Now in this series I'm giving you my recommendations on what players to sign for a specific team in career mode. Before we go on, I will say that the signings you'll see aren't designed to be realistic, and that the player ratings and potential of the players may vary depending on what database you're using and how they perform for you during the season. Obviously, you don't have to follow all the tips. This is really just a set of guidelines to give you a hand if you're stuck for ideas and want some suggestions on what players you can sign for a certain club. This is mainly aimed at those who are out there who need the game and just need a little bit of advice, or for those who are out there trying a few recommendations on what players to sign for a team that you may be using in career mode this year. So in today's episode of Who to Sign For, guys, keeping it in the Bundesliga. Very excited about these guys. It's SC Freiburg with Christian Streich at the helm, has been there for over a decade now, and after a great season domestically this year for Freiburg, where they really performed above the expectations. They finished in 6th place, qualified for the Europa League, only narrowly missed out on a Champions League spot as well. They're also in the DFB Pokal Final on Saturday night as well against RB Leipzig, going for their first ever major domestic honour. Both clubs are. That should be a really good final. Very much looking forward to it. Now, Freiburg are a 4-star team. As you'll see, it's alright, it's decent. There are a couple of really good players in there, and there's a couple of really good youngsters to look out for as well. And their starting budget in the game is around £15 million, around 15 million. So it's not a big budget to work with. It's not a great team, but the objectives in the first season are very, very routine. Finish mid-table, yep, no doubt about it. Freiburg, more than good enough for that. This year finished in a European spot and reached the last 16 of the DFB Pokal. This year, again, they're in the final, so no reason you can't do both of those objectives. Simply put, this is an RTG team. Yep, Freiburg are a road to glory side. They are not the sort of team where you win everything in a year or two and call it a day. No, it's about a 5-season project, I'd say, to take them from where they are right now, mid-table in the Bundesliga, or expected to be in the game, to Bundesliga champions, Champions League contenders. Yeah, it's a long-term project. Now, with Freiburg, as you'll see, 7 players have their deals come the end of the year, and I give 3 new contracts out as well. You got Kevin Schlotterback, who is the brother of Nico. He's a really good squad centre-half, and his younger brother is one of the best young German centre-halves in the game. So keep Nico happy and extend Kevin's contract. He's an okay squad centre-half to have. Roland Solai, a young Hungarian winger, 24 years old, 76 overall in the first team. Definitely extend his contract. He's got the first team quality to be part of your first team squad for at least 2 or 3 years. And also Mark Flacken. He's the Dutch goalkeeper between the sticks with Freiburg as well. 79 overall, and despite being in his late 20s, he still grows a rating to 80 overall as well. He's a really safe pair of hands and definitely worth keeping around. I would not sell him in the first season. Nope, I'd keep him right here as your starting goalkeeper. He's got a lot of quality to begin with. So I put 4 players on the transfer list, and as you'll see, those are the players that have their deals that come the end of the year. In the very first season, you know, you want to be smart with your pennies with Freiburg. Like I said, you've got a budget of around 15 mil, which, let's be honest here, in modern day football is not a lot, you know, especially if you want to sign quality players. So definitely be careful with your pennies in the first season. But the players you do sell, you'll notice you won't get an astronomical amount of money for them. You won't get much in return for the players you're letting go of. Kubler, for example, the right back, only went for 2.6 mil, but you'll notice their salaries aren't really worth keeping on the books. Whilst they're not bad squad players to have, personally, I'd cash in the first season, get their salaries off the books, and the little money you get back in return, reinvest in younger players. Freiburg are an RTG side. They're all about bringing in young talent for the future, and my number 1 target for a Freiburg career mode, with around 15 million in the budget, you'll have enough to bring him in. You probably know who he is. You want a new striker for the future, and the first team now, is there a better fit than this guy? Karim Adeyemi at RB Salzburg. He's only 19 years old, but I know you heard of this guy. He's making a name for himself in Austria and in European football. 75 overall to begin with, but this guy's got 87 potential. Yet he grows 12 ratings, and he's got brilliant base stats. He's absolutely rapid. He's got a clinical finish on him, 4-star skill with 3-star weak foot, high medium work rates, and 88 jumping with 72 strength as well. This guy could be turned into complete forward as the years go by, and he's more than good enough to lead your line in the very first season. Even as a teenager, definitely bring him in. You won't spend much over the valuation to get him either. You can get him for around 12.5 mil. I think I spent 12.7 mil to get him, which is only a little bit over the valuation. When you think about what this guy will be worth in the future, when he's in the high 80s, possibly even hitting 90 overall, this guy's going to be worth a lot more wanted 12.5 million, let's just say that. Definitely bring him in. Striker is the first position I'd recommend strengthening with Freiburg, because you've got a lot of strikers here, but not a lot of quality and potential for the future, but Adeyemi has both. So as you'll see, we're going to sell Holder, the young centre-half as well, and also Yannick Habera as well. He's out of contract at the end of the season, so once again, these sort of players, they're in their late 20s. They're not going to decline for a year or two minimum, but I would just sell them and get their salaries off the books. So 73 overall, he's a good enough squad player here, but again, with his contract up coming the end of the year, I wouldn't recommend extending. I would just sell him as soon as you can. We sold this guy for 2.9 mil to Bournemouth. You'll also notice as well, we sold Golder to Deportivo Alaves 2.5 mil. Again, the money we're getting isn't that much, but their salaries off the books, and it is a little bit coming into the club as a return for these players, and you can then reinvest that on younger players with higher potential. Again, with Freiburg, it's all about building for the future. Those squad players there, they don't have a long-term future. Maybe in the first year or two, again, they're a decent squad player. They'll provide some good depth, but let's be honest here, 4 or 5 years in, they're not really going to be worth anything, so extending their contracts makes very little sense. But for other new signs of Freiburg, I would recommend a new right-back here. Now, you do have a really talented young Belgian. Freiburg do have a couple of really good youth talents in their team. Obviously, you've got Schlotterback, the centre-half, who's probably their best high-potential youngster, but also the young Belgian right-back as well. But you will want someone to give him competition for now and for the future as well. And this guy's a really good pickup. It's Felix Agoo of the newly promoted Werder Bremen. They are back in the Bundesliga for next season. And this guy's a solid wing-back. He can play on both flanks, both left wing-back and right wing-back, and also further forward at right mid as well. When you look at his stats here, he's absolutely rapid with really good stamina, great dribbling, decent crossing and ball control, very good wing going forward. His main concern is his defence. So what I would do is put him on a defensive wing-back development plan as soon as you get him in, because he is a listed right wing-back and not a right-back, but I put him on a defensive wing-back development plan that will train his reasonably low strength and defensive stats as well. But in the first season, I'll keep Sique, the young Belgian right-back, as your starter. Agoo's got 81 potential, very solid, but I believe Sique, the Belgian, has 83 or 84, so he's got more potential than Agoo, but there will be a good duo to have to compete with one another as the years go by, and really it'll be then be personal choice who you want, either Agoo or Sique as your starting right back / right wing back in this Freiburg team. Both very good young talented European fullback / wing backs. So we sold Niels Peterson to Celta Vigo. Again, only 3 million for his services, but once Adeyemi came in, we weren't going to use him. And as for more signings with Freiburg, again, it's all about bringing in those young, high-potential players. This is possibly the biggest bargain you can get in this year's FIFA career mode. Bold statement, but I stand by it. Fabio Carvalho of Fulham. We know in real life he's going to join Liverpool, but he helped Fulham get promoted in real life this year to the Premier League as they're back in the top flight for next season. And this guy's out of contract at the end of the season, so you can get him for under the valuation, if not the valuation, which is just a measly £6 million. And let's be honest, this guy's worth a lot more than that. 18 years old, he's a teenage wonder kid with a starting overall of 73, which means he's good enough to go right in your first 11, and he's got 86 potential as well. Yeah, this guy's got solid potential, gross 13 ratings, and again, with dynamic potential, no reason why you can't get him to close to 90 overall. I really like Carvalho in this game because he's one of those sort of players that can play sort of anywhere in the final third. You can have him on the wing, you can have him as a playmaker, or even as a false nine. I think he'd do really well as a false nine, to be honest, but in this team, I'd have him in his natural role as an attacking midfielder. He's good enough to go right into the first 11 to maximise that potential, and again, he's a really creative player with a lot of technical ability and also pretty quick as well. Yeah, definitely bring him in. And for 6 mil, again, it's an absolute bargain. He's going to be worth a lot more than that in the future, no doubt about it. So the final sale I made was this guy. I didn't actually have him on the transfer list initially, but he is now in his 30s. He's been at Freiburg for over a decade, so I didn't plan to sell him, but he is now in his 30s. It's Nicholas Hoffler, the young defensive midfielder. Came out of Freiburg Academy, been there since a kid, but he is okay. I think it's 73 or 74 overall. Not too bad. But again, at 31 years old, I think he is. you can get better and you can get younger, and if you are doing an RTG with Freiburg, you need to look to build towards the future. So we sold him, and the money we got, we reinvested in this guy right here. He's a perfect replacement for Hoffler, actually. It's the Brentford midfielder, Vitali Jannelt. Moved on to Brentford a couple of years ago. He's a really solid, energetic midfielder, and to replace Hoffler in this team, he'd be a great choice, because he's over 8 years younger, but he's the same starting overall, and has far more potential as well. Yep, really solid player. You'll probably have to spend a little bit of evaluation to get him. I'd spend 8.5 mil to bring Vitali back to the Bundesliga, but this guy again is, I believe, the same overall as Hoffler, if not one rating higher, and he's got far more potential as well. He's got 81 potential, so grows 7 ratings, does really well. He'll be a starting holding mid for at least the first 3 or 4 years, and again, in this Freiburg team with high work rates, an abundance of energy, and really good technical stats as well. Defensively, he's a really solid DM with, again, high stamina, great defensive stats, and also a solid strength rating to begin with as well. Yeah, he's a really solid player, and he can pass the ball pretty well too. So in this team alongside Eggstein, he'll do really well in the DM role as a long-term successor for Hoffler. So after that, we had very little money remaining. Once the season ticket money came in, around 2.25 to 2.5 mil, I decided to sign 2 young German talents just to fill out the squad. Freiburg, as you'll notice, don't have a very fixed squad. It's quite a small squad, not many bodies in the reserves, but because they're not in Europe in the game in the very first season, they don't really need a fixed squad. The Bundesliga is only 34 games a season. There's only 18 teams in the Bundesliga, hence why there's 34 games. Don't know why I clarified that. There's only one cup competition domestically in the DFB Pokal, and also they're not in Europe as well. So you don't really need a fixed squad in the first season, but it is still pretty cool to bring in some more young German talent if you could. This guy's one of the absolute best you can get in the game. It's Rybigger of Rb Leipzig. He starts off very lowly rated in the early 60s, but just 16 years old. This guy's got 85 potential. He's the sort of guy that grows quietly in the background. You don't play him in the first couple of seasons. He barely sees a minute's worth of action, but he grows quietly in the background, and he'll turn into being a really good player for you in the future of 85 potential. And this guy as well, it's Mehmet Aydin of Schalke, right now at the Veltins Arena. He's 66 overall as a young wingback, 19 years old, but again, the sort of player that will grow quietly in the background. You won't use him much, but will develop nicely with little game time, and he's got 80 potential as well. So worth bringing in just to give more depth to the defensive positions here with Freiburg. So that was it for SC Freiburg in the end. As you can see, we spent practically every single penny on assembling our Freiburg team. We sold 5 players for 14.25 mil and signed 6 players for 33.3 mil. So in the end, it was a net loss of around 19 million. When you look at the players we sold here, all in their 30s, apart from the 2 at the bottom, they were in their late 20s. But the players that came in, I mean, teenagers and players in their early 20s coming in. In fact, there are only 2 players out of the 6 we signed that aren't teenagers. Everyone else wasn't even in their 20s yet, but the first team quality improved with Vitali Jannelt, Fabio, Carvalho and Karim Adeyemi coming in. And then for the future, you got Felix Agoo, Mehmet Aydin and also Rybigger as well. It's a really solid Freiburg team to begin with, but it does need a rebuild. If you can add some young potential, it's a long-term RTG in the first season. That's all you need to do. You don't need to qualify for Europe. So as we simulate the end of the season, we'll see how Freiburg got on. And as you can see, well, there was no DFB Pokal Final like in real life, but again, you're not asked to get there, and they've overachieved by getting there this season. But in the Bundesliga, as you can see, really solid season, finished in the top 10, a mid-table finish, exactly what the board are asking for. And that's all you got to do in the first season. You'll see that Dortmund actually won a title this year, beating Bayern by 6 points. I very rarely see that in the first season, so I thought that was kind of cool. But still, Freiburg finishing in 10th in season 1. It's a top 10 finish. It's 50, I think it was 52 points on the board in the first season. Oh, no, 44. Sorry, I was well off there. 44 points. But even so, look at the record there. 11 wins, 11 draws, and 12 defeats. Very similar indeed. We were still a whopping 16 points clear of the relegation playoff place. So in the first season, with Griffo being in the top 5 for goal scoring and Adeyemi in the top 15 as well, yeah, it's a pretty solid first season for Freiburg. We might not have hit our cup objective. You'll see we were knocked out by the beaten finalist Stuttgart in the second round. So the cup was a failure by 1 round, but really not a big deal. As I often say in FIFA career mode, if you hit a league objective, you're fine 9 times out of 10, and we definitely were. We finished in the top 10. We might have finished 1 round shorter or fewer, if you will, in the DFB Pokal, but really, It's totally fine. This Freiburg team is an RTG. They've overachieved big time this season in real life. They've done so well to finish in the top 6, qualify for the Europa League, and reach the DFB Pokal Final in the process as well. That's a great season for Freiburg in real life. They've overachieved big time. But in the game, you don't need to do that. It's fine. Finishing mid-table is all you really need to do. The first season with Freiburg is all about laying down the groundwork. They've got a couple of great youngsters like Sakaya, the young Belgian right back, and Nico Schlotterback, the centre-half, who's really solid as well. All you need to do is just replace some of the seniors and bring in some good young talent. We definitely did that with Karim Adeyemi and Fabio Carvalho going right in the first team with mid to high 80 potential. Vitali Jannelt is our new holding mid. Rybigger, the youngster from RB Leipzig to look out for in the future, and also Felix and Mehmet, the young wing backs as well. This Freiburg team is a really good one for an RTG. They've got some great kits. It's such a shame their real stadium is not in the game. They built a new stadium very recently. I urge you guys to check it out. It looks very, very cool. Very modern design, especially the exterior of the ground. Looks very cool, and I hope, fingers crossed, touch wood, EA add it into the game next year as they have a lot of Bundesliga licensing. But yeah, it's a really fun team to use. It's a challenge, it's an RTG, it's got a couple of good youngsters, but it does need a major rebuild. I would definitely say, if you're looking for a challenge but a long-term RTG in the Bundesliga, give SC Freiburg a go. Overachieved big time this season in real life, but a great long-term project to work with in FIFA career mode. But that will end today's episode of Who to Sign For, guys. Big thank you for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then please do drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you for the next episode of Who to Sign For very soon.